Hi, I'm Eduardo Neret with Campus Reform. With recent calls to take down Confederate statues and to rename buildings, schools, and streets after figures in history who may have held slaves, we're here to talk to young Americans to see what they think about that movement. We're also going to ask them how far they would go. Would they take down a statue of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson? And we're also throwing in some more modern political figures who have dark histories of their own, people like Bill Clinton and Joe Biden. Would they support renaming buildings named after them too? Let's find out. With all the racial protests that have been going on, something that a lot of people have been calling for is to kind of remove Confederate statues, change the names of street signs, buildings, schools that have references to a Confederate past. If the person maybe held slaves, if they were part of the Confederacy. What do you think about that movement? Do you agree or disagree? Do you think we should be taking down Confederate statues, names, and things like that?
We need to reimagine our society.
I do agree with the movement, especially because I feel like that's a dark part of our past as Americans in this country.
I agree. I think as a society and we're putting names of these people on streets or buildings as people for us to follow and basically saying that that's all right.
We should definitely change some statues and some names of some buildings and streets.
Yeah. I don't know why they have that to begin with. Why would you support someone who has a racist past, and why would you see that for young kids to see, you know?
Yeah, I feel like it's important because those are people that are very despicable, I would say, people that did very horrible things.
Well, the Confederate flag represents racism, so I don't think it has a place to be up.
Taking down old ideas, because I think that's what those statues, those streets, those building names, they perpetuate an idea.
There's different ways to combat that kind of thing. One of them being maybe constructing museums of Confederate history.
If we're not willing to support other fascist symbols and other, like a Nazi swastika, then those symbols that perpetuate that ideology should be taken down.
People on the other side are saying, well, where do you draw the line? How far is too far? So some people have said, would it be too far to take down a statue of George Washington or Thomas Jefferson because they were both presidents, but they held slaves? Is that too far for you, or do you think it would be appropriate to kind of remove maybe a Washington, Jefferson, Columbus statue?
I don't think it's far enough, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't know the point of having it.
When you say you don't think it's far enough, what would be far enough for you?
I mean, it should just be removed to begin with. It shouldn't even have been put there. Everyone knows the history.
Would you support even going as far as, Washington and Jefferson because they had slaves?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's not really, for my opinion, really. I think it's supporting the people who have been oppressed by this ideology and what their voices say. And if it's part of their healing process, then I'm supportive of it.
I mean, I wouldn't take down their namesakes because it is something of the times as well.
They are the founders of this country. Everyone makes mistakes.
But if you have George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, people like that, they represented more than that. They did bad things, but they also did some good things, and you can't wash away all of that.
The line could be drawn at the Confederacy, mostly because since those people like George Washington, Thomas Jefferson were the founding fathers of the nation.
What about some more modern figures? What about a politician who maybe a recent politician who has a bad history with women, and they're politicians who worked with segregationists in the 60s to keep the country segregated, and they have buildings named after them? Should people like that should they have their names removed from current buildings, and should they have any statues removed as well?
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I agree.
I think re-examining wouldn't be a bad idea.
For more modern figures, I think it's more okay to clear them from our statues and our names and such.
As an example with that, Bill Clinton and his treatment of women, or Joe Biden having a history of working with segregationists, do you think their names should be purged from buildings and statues?
I'm not too sure about that one.
I don't want to say I would support their names specifically because I don't have the expertise to know their past.
Yes, same reason. It's basically saying that what they're doing is okay because they're important.
Why are we even giving these people building names?
It all depends if they're man enough to confess what they did was wrong.
Yeah, I think if you've ever sexually assaulted anyone, then you have no right to be as big as you are and have your name anywhere, to be honest.
Just the Democratic presidential candidate, Joe Biden. I'm extremely anti-Trump. I also think that Biden is also a horrible person in the sense that we're talking about, current politicians, that he has issues with sexual assault, working with segregationists, all those things. So politicians like him that are currently still in power, that have embodied those things throughout history and throughout their political career, they should be investigated more.
How's it going? I'm Eduardo Neret with Campus Reform. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to get our latest content, click right here. If you're interested in joining our team as a correspondent or an investigator, click there. And if you want to donate to make sure we can create more great content like this, click right here.